Welcome, everybody. Good morning to the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. I'm Phil Davidson from the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council, and it is my pleasure to have co-hosting the show with me for the first time ever, the newly appointed political director at the Chicago Federation of Labor, Izzy Dobbel.
Hey, thanks for having me on this morning.
Good morning, Izzy. I was about to say, please welcome Izzy, but there's no one here to welcome you, so I had to...
Round of applause. Thank
round
you.
of applause. If you're listening at home, give her a round of applause. Thank you. Ken and Ed are both absent today, and Izzy is very knowledgeable, very smart about what's going on in Illinois government, Chicago government and politics, and we're very, very fortunate to have her. So tell us a little bit about your new role. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
This is a new position for you, correct?
Yes, it is. It's also the first time, I think, in a decade that we've split up our legislative and political work.
Okay.
So I came in with the CFL about a year ago as the Deputy Director of Government Affairs.
Okay.
So I work with Andrea Kluger, who's our Deputy Chief of Staff.
Yes, know Andrea.
Government Affairs. She is brilliant. And so running, I started literally the week that everybody for the Chicago municipals filed. So it was like everyone and their mom is running for office now.
Oh, gosh. Your phone has been blowing up.
Yeah, right. All 50
to the job.
seats were up, right?
Yeah.
And then we had the mayor, the city clerk, the treasurer, and so many more in the suburbs. So it was pedal to the metal, and I got to really learn the process of the CFL, how those endorsements go. It's a very democratic process. And then, of course, once we do our endorsements, I got to...
Small D democratic.
Yeah,
yes,
right. Right. For union members.
Yes.
But yeah, and then be able to run all of our mail programs and political organizing and digital for all of these races and the candidates that we know are going to be union and labor allies.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. And the Chicago Federation of Labor is basically the umbrella for all the unions that fall within Cook County, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 300 affiliates. There are over 500,000 people are represented by those 300 affiliates in Cook County. So we've got everyone from airline pilots to zookeepers. I love when Bob says that because it truly is any unionized worker. We've got people in government. We've got people in nonprofits. At the end of the day, solidarity holds strong, and we're always looking out for working people.
And what did you do prior to this?
Yeah, so I've been in the political world for 7 years now, doing campaigns from local level. I've been on a gubernatorial race. I was on the Biden's campaign in 2020. I actually was in Michigan.
Yeah.
Deputy Director of Operations. That was chaotic.
Yes.
It's being able to open field offices and have a presence in the middle of a pandemic. But I think that was a puzzle for all of us.
Yeah. You must be a glutton for punishment because working in politics is grueling. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah. I'm scrappy. I think that's what works out really well. It's the campaign world is scrappy and being able to, be a make it happen person.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I most recently was on the governor's campaign as a women's outreach director and was waiting for the opportunity to, get involved with unions. I've always wanted to advocate for working people more and more deeply, and something that's really connected to my story as an immigrant. So it was a great opportunity, and now I'm a year in and really honored to be the political director, to be able to oversee all of our political programming and our endorsement process.
That is fantastic, and we really appreciate you being here. We've got such a great show for you to be involved with and hear your perspective. We have a representative, good friend of mine and relative, Brian Shanahan from the Transportation and Communications Union. He's going to talk about some issues going on with railroad labor. And towards the later part of the show, we're going to have someone from the UAW talking about what's going on with the strike. John Gedney, one of their political coordinators. Very excited to talk to him. A lot happening in that world as well. So we will be right back. And thanks, everybody, for listening to the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. Welcome back to the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. I'm Phil Davidson from the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council, and with me is co-host extraordinaire Izzy Dobble. Thanks again, Izzy. Ken and Ed, watch out. This girl's got the goods, so she might have taken you out of a job. And we have a special guest in the studio with us, a man who is very close to me. He's my brother-in-law, but he's also a tremendous union leader himself. Vice President for the TCU Transportation Communications Union, Brian Shanahan. Welcome, Brian.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Izzy, for having me on today.
Absolutely.
I'm really glad to be sitting next to you this early in the morning on a Sunday, Phil. It's something that we forget how to do.
Hey, we're family, man. This is what we do. We hang out. We love each other. We work together. We play together. We do radio together.
I think you're taking that a little bit too far together.
I went way too far with that. Sorry, buddy. They're like, are these guys have a relationship? No. We're good here. We're good. Welcome, Brian. We want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world of rail labor. But let's give our listeners an overview at the start. A lot of people don't know how rail labor works. Tell us about what your union, who you guys represent, and what your role is, and then we'll talk about, just rail labor as a whole.
Absolutely. So I come from Metro, actually where I started my career. So I'm a Chicago native, which is pretty awesome to say, but I get to go across the country. So what's unique about rail labor? Well, number one, we're spread out everywhere. So most people think, like my counterpart here, Izzy, that we only represent certain territories in Illinois. Sorry, wrong. We go everywhere. We do everything. So I work for the Transportation Communications Union. We're merged with the Machinist. And I consider us like a catch-all union. So we even represent Disney workers. We go from intermodal truck to train to commuters, freight, you name it, we do it. So there's 12 different rail labor unions. Some of them are merged, some of them are standalone, but it's pretty unique in that sense. But it's a great thing when we all get along. And that sometimes we do that, and we do that pretty well too.
And what are the different divisions of labor on the railroad? So you represent agents, clerks, carmen, I know. What do some of the other unions represent?
Well, we have my other brother, not this brother-in-law, which is Rob Shanahan. He represents maintenance away workers, so they fix the tracks and building structures. So that's the Brotherhood of Maintenance Away Employees, and they're a division of the Teamsters. And then you also have the locomotive and engineers who drive the train, and they're a division of the Teamsters. Then you have sheet metal, which is smart. So you have conductors, and then you also have like a building trades division of sheet metal, and the list goes on and on and on. So the cool part about rail labor is we're merged with some big unions, so when people start coming knocking on us, we have a lot of friends too. So that's awesome. And then that part of us actually develops where we are kind of like our own unions in the union too. So we tend to work together a lot, legislatively and in contract bargaining.
Got it. And is there a rail division in CFL? Do you have members from?
Yeah, we have a whole transportation committee. So we have the CFL represents 300 unions across Cook County, which represent 500,000 members across the city. So, and of course our suburbs. So yes, we work with TCU all the time, and there's just so many other issue areas that we've been focusing on and making sure that, transportation is taking a big stance.
Absolutely. And talk about the state of affairs with rail labor, maybe as it pertains to commuters. I think that's what a lot of listeners at this point can probably relate to the most. Everything has changed, obviously, now post-COVID with Metro ridership. Schedules are changing. There's talk of possibly consolidating and having a unified system. Would love to hear your thoughts on kind of where things stand.
Absolutely. So the one thing that I want to point out is Izzy's being very humble. Rail labor is like herding cats. So we actually have developed and worked with the CFL to form this transportation group along with ATU, and our partnership has grown immensely. So all these rail unions have gotten really, really involved with the Chicago Federation of Labor, and they've been a great support system, her, Bob, and Andrea. So that's been a fantastic thing for us. And as we go through the change of Metro, PACE, and CTA and what's possibly going to happen with the CMAP report, we're all lockstep on this. So that's really cool to have going on, and the CFL has been a great advocate for us. They've actually set up meetings and had discussions with us and CMAP. So when that thing hits the legislature, we're going to have a say, hopefully, as we go on.
And what is a CMAP?
So CMAP is making an approach on what they're going to do with the service boards, because in this country today, almost every commuter agency is going to hit a fiscal cliff, and Metro, PACE, and CTA are going to hit a fiscal cliff. In the unfortunate piece, or a little bit of history, we have the RTA, which is the overlay. Then you have Metro, PACE, and CTA. So initially when the RTA was brought up and born, it was one service board, and then they made separate divisions because they thought we were all unique. But oddly enough, it doesn't work. So we're constantly competing with each other for money, and we're constantly worried about funding issues. And for example, on the Metro Electric in University Park, you had a staircase that literally crumbled and fell down. And these are like one of 10,000 infrastructure issues, right? So we need to develop a regional plan because of COVID. Things have changed. So getting the three service boards to work together is one challenge on top of a funding challenge, and where are we going to get the money? So we need to provide a different type of service than what people are used to, because the 9-to-5 commuters are moving away from that, and we're having more of like a regional rail approach. And how we do that is going to be something that the Illinois legislature has to step in and help out, and to make, people work together.
Yeah.
So it is definitely a unique time, and we've had some tough issues and tough battles with Metro too in bargaining recently. So hopefully we can work together for the.
You currently have a contract with Metro though, right?
We do, but we're actually going back into bargaining next year. So we had a tumultuous last round. So for the first time ever, we had to coalition bargain at Metro, and the Chicago Federation of Labor was a huge part of that. So they helped develop the transportation group, and they helped
Izzy's
connect
patting
us.
herself on the back right now.
Well, they were, which led to us throwing a gigantic rally and basically awakening rail labor again in this state, and being a part of political functions, things like that, being, there with everyone, and even taking recognition with the other unions we traditionally didn't work with, was like ATU, stuff like that. So now we like to stick together, as they say, very much so. And what people need to remember is we're under a different law than ATU, so we have a different set of things that need to happen before we can strike.
And the ATU are the people who work for CTA, who work for the buses, who work for the subway. Yeah, right.
Yes, and there's all sorts of different unions. I'm just naming ATU because that's a pretty heavily,
it's a big
one there. So again, I can't thank the Chicago Federation of Labor enough, but I'm not going to lie on this microphone right now to my brother-in-law or Izzy, because I think it might be a tough round again next round, especially with the financial uncertainty moving forward, unless if we can figure out a way to make folks work together. So
yeah. And how do you work with them, Izzy, from the CFL side? Not just rail labor unions, but all unions. Like what is your involvement? When they go to bargaining sessions and stuff like that.
So, we're always there to be an ally and support all of our unions once they're going into those conversations. A lot of them they're closed room conversations between the management and the union, but we're always here to support in any way that service might look like. If there's an action, especially, we're on the line, we're planning, a rally with WGA, we're planning rallies with SAG-AFTRA, we're planning, if there's ever a time that an affiliate reaches out to us, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
So that could be great communication support, getting the message out. It could be holding elected officials accountable. We love our allies that are here to support labor, but we got to make sure that we hold them to their feet to the fire a little to make sure they're actually coming through. But so there's tons of opportunities for that.
Yeah.
Drafting legislation. Andrea is our deputy chief of staff who runs all of our legislative affairs, and she is always in Springfield, always pushing to advance the lives of working people. So we have been always in support of TCU and what they're working on, and I know that the next few years to get that funding is going to be a challenge, but the solidarity is going to stay, and the accountability is something that we're going to have to make sure we're keeping into account.
Yeah, the CFL is the muscle for everyone, and I can't imagine. I mean, it's hard enough to keep tabs on just one individual union and the inner workings of it and the politics, like I have to do for the Carpenters, but to keep tabs on how many unions are part of the CFL?
Over 300.
300, and understand all those different bargaining negotiations and jurisdictional disputes. Man, that is a lot to grasp.
Bob likes to say, we represent airline pilots to zookeepers to xylophonists to Boilermakers. We do everything, truly.
Each with their own unique set of issues to overcome. Will, going back to the rail unions, will you, being yourself, Brian, other members of leadership, will you have an active voice in the conversations about how you like to see commuter rail turn in the next coming years? When it comes to scheduling, when it comes to services, obviously a lot of that will be looked at and discussed by the leadership of the different commuter operations. But I'm just wondering, what voice will the unions have in that?
Well, that's a great question. I guess I should ask another question. What happens if we don't have a voice?
Yeah.
So there is going to be something the unions do.
Yeah.
We're not going away. So I want to be very clear on this radio show right now that we are going to be a part of this, whether people like it or not. We are going to be holding people accountable. I think a lot of people out there are really well aware. Springfield's really well aware. The state Fed we are on the move. So again, once this there's different ideas. They can keep the structure the same. They have different options, 3 different options essentially. Go down to one service board, still keep things a little bit separated where there's advisory groups. But I think whatever we do, when we have to transition with this, and there should be some sort of advisory board set up between labor and management for this transition, because we really are the resident experts. We do make that thing happen, and that's the railroad or the transportation sector. We drive the buses, we fix the trains, we do everything. And I hate to break it to you, but the people in the ivory towers don't do that very well.
No, they're not what they're equipped to do, basically.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to point out too about, so we have our counterparts is sheet metal, right? So we have transportation, and the one thing that Izzy's counterpart did, Andrea, was help push through House Bill 1342, which was the assault on transit workers, and it's holding people accountable. So her and I know Bob Guy from sheet metal and Orlando Rojas were huge advocates of this bill, and so was the CFL. So I just want to say thanks for that too. It's starting to hold passengers accountable, because a lot of people get assaulted, or even my members get assaulted verbally or physically.
Take out their frustrations on the workers, yeah.
Right.
Well, that's because we don't have a good regional rail approach, so I kind of get it too. So we have to really work on that. But so that's something I'm really proud the CFL worked on too.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that one. Was that passed in the last session?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's different things, and the CFL was great advocates, and we worked with ATU, and we had calls, and we had their leadership with us, and they were really pressing it. So that's the power of the CFL.
Yeah. What's going on the federal level? I know the big newsmaker last year was it earlier this year, when your members who work on the freight railroads finally got sick days for paid leave, because that is something that was never available to members who worked on the railroads, which is crazy that if you were sick, you literally couldn't take a day off, which is something that most people in America, especially in the corporate world, can now enjoy. And it was unfair that you guys didn't have that protection, but that was since passed. I know there's upcoming contract negotiations as well, but just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about where that stands.
I like to think of labor in general right now as a moment in time. And we're all having that moment, whether it's UAW, I know is going to be on the show, or we see the actors striking. I just was telling somebody, I turned on CNN and I see all this union activity, right? I mean, when's the last time you've seen a president stand in a picket line, if ever?
Right.
I don't think that's ever happened, right?
Yeah.
So we went through this tough round of bargaining on the freight side. So we have all these big Class 1 railroads, BN, think of that, UP, CN, and they're really not fun, just to be upfront. So think about all of us. We really had to stick together, and that's what they did. So the FL's Department of Transportation really helped out too with this, and there's a lot of people that were pushing behind this, but we ended up in a presidential emergency board. So when that happened, we got an award that came back that was pretty darn favorable, but we still have to ratify a contract and do all that stuff. And one of the biggest issues is we didn't get sick days. So there's been
During a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, and that's it's pretty disheartening. I think when people find that out, it's like almost unreal.
Yeah.
And they think that, how could that be in this day and age? And it's true, and I think the pandemic in particular, we had a lot of members pass away. It was really hard because I don't think there was a pandemic playbook, but we had to keep working because things had to be moved via COVID.
You were essential workers.
Yeah, and especially like my intermodal group and stuff, and just it was surreal to watch. So them not having sick days, I think about all those people every day, and a lot of the railroads, they wanted to give it to us with strings because of pressure from the unions legislatively. That's really what happened, and they did, but it didn't come quietly. And then they tried to put strings attached. They have these atrocious attendance policies too. So if you mark off sick, they try to discipline you to not incentivize you calling in sick. So on top of that, we were constantly battling with that, but it seems to be working. And again, I do have to say, like, if it wasn't for organized labor sticking together and pushing this, we wouldn't be anywhere right now, especially rail labor. Yeah. But the other positive is it has awakened us. That I've seen. I haven't seen rail labor this out in the public, I think, ever. And I've been around rail labor my entire life with my family. So that's a good positive thing.
Yeah, no, you're out there. You're generating headlines. And yeah, I can definitely say myself that I haven't seen this much activity in my lifetime. So kudos to you and everyone else, and keep up the good fight.
I appreciate that. And I think it's a great combination of people working together.
Yeah. It's all about, man. Well, we got to take a break here, But thank you very much for coming in. You did an excellent job, young man. I'm not just saying that because I'm biased here, but thank you.
I really appreciate that, but you're not that much older than me, so it's kind of even more awkward. So I'm saying that because I think it's funny.
I know. This guy's wet behind the ears, a little whippersnapper.
It's fine. You'll see each other at the barbecue later. It'll all be fine.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
Well, thanks again for coming in, Brian. We'll be right back on the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. Welcome back to the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. I'm Phil Davidson from the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council, here with Izzy Dobble from the Chicago Federation of Labor, and we have a guest on the line who's got some stuff to talk about that is hot off the press, the UAW strike that is really kind of taking over the nation right now. Our guest is John Gedney. He is the UAW Region 4 Political Director. Welcome, John.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for joining us. I know it's a hectic time for you, and I think maybe we could just jump into, John. We had, you had President Biden visiting a picket line in Michigan, which we talked about is the first time a sitting president has joined a union on strike, and talk a little bit about what that meant for your members. What type of impact you think this could have, if it gives you any bargaining leverage. Obviously, like I said before, this is the first time something like that's ever happened.
Yes, it was historic, and I want to make it very clear that President Biden was there for one reason only. He understands the solidarity and the power of the people. That's why he was there visiting and walking with those picketers.
Absolutely. Does it give your members a boost to see the president show up there? I mean, obviously, there's some things that still need to be discussed with the president about how you're going to figure out what's going to happen with supporting the EV vehicles. But just kind of wondering, like, the general sense of, wow, I mean, this is huge. This is it's the biggest issue happening in the United States right now.
Well, definitely historic, but like I said, the president was there for one reason only. He understands the solidarity of the workers. As a morale boost, certainly it boosted the morale, but we have a very capable negotiating team. The White House is not involved in our negotiations, nor will they be.
That's great.
Got it. If we can go into that topic that I mentioned before about electric vehicles, I know that's a big part of the crux of what you're trying to figure out here as you're bargaining on behalf of your members. Like, what threat do electric vehicles pose to the members of the UAW?
Well, the UAW is more than ready to lead the auto industry into the green economy, but there has to be a place for workers to land that gives them the first shot at these new jobs with the same pay and safety standards UAW members have today. Forcing workers to decide between green jobs and good jobs is a false choice. The big three are attempting to exploit the transition to EVs and create a race to the bottom, creating low-road jobs and undercut pay and safety standards. UAW has set and won in this industry. Every time these corporations say they need to be competitive, it's secret code for a race to the bottom. Right. Workers don't care whether they're making internal combustible engines or battery engines. They care about having good jobs, union jobs that allow them to raise their family, buy a home, save for the future, and retire with dignity. Every auto job should have the same standard UAW has fought for and won generations of auto workers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
We're prepared and willing to make that transition.
I love to hear it. So, John, this is Izzy. What is the level of solidarity you've seen across the labor movement in this moment?
Like I've never seen in my 30-year career.
Wow.
But again, this is history in the making, right? People have an opportunity to stand up against corporate greed, and I want to make it very clear that that's what it's clearly about.
Right.
Corporations have made record profits at the tone of $250 billion. Just in the last 6 months, the big three in North America have made $21 billion in profits. They've given themselves 40% raise increased the cost of a vehicle by 30%. yet our wages have only risen 6%. We made concessions in 2008. We saved the auto industry, and the corporations are very profitable. And it's now time for them to sit down and have serious conversations about paying that back to the workers that help them be profitable. They could double our wages and still make record profits.
Oh, for sure. And I know that the slogan I've been seeing is the record profits, record contracts, right?
Absolutely. And I want to make it very clear, years ago, the UAW set the standard for good-paying jobs and wages and benefits, the gold standard, right? And we want to get back to that. This is not just a fight of just us, but it's a fight for justice for workers across America.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
No, absolutely. Now, I don't think it's a stretch to say that, this battle here is really about the future of the middle class, correct? I mean,
Absolutely.
if you can't provide union workers with a sustainable wage that could allow them to provide for their families, what do we have anymore in this country? I mean, it really is. It's about protecting the middle class, and if you lose that, and because I've seen what you're bargaining for, I've seen what you're asking for. These people aren't going to be rich. They're just looking to be able to afford homes, to be able to send their kids to school, to have a good middle class lifestyle, and you take that away, then what do we have anymore?
Well said. We're not fighting for the whole pie like the companies want, right? They want the whole pie, the whole island. We want our piece of the pie, our fair share, so we can live our life with dignity, provide for our families and communities. Because when we do better, our communities do better. Right? Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for some of the listeners who might not know of like the large pillars that you were advocating for, would you be able to share what you're fighting for in the contract?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd like to end the tiers. Right now there's a two-tier wage system, which takes an employee 8 years to get up to full rate. In comparison to our wages, just 10 years ago, they're making $10 less.
Wow.
If we were to compare those wages today. To restore the cost of living, COLA, right? And we've seen high inflation. We want to restore COLA, job security. And to prevent plants from closing and moving our products overseas or to other countries, there has to be some kind of job security in this agreement. Because it is the workers that make the profits for the companies, and they need to recognize that. And nobody does it better than the workers at UAW. They produce a high-quality vehicle. Nobody does it faster. Nobody does it better.
Absolutely. And truly, it's the bar, right? Like you're asking for true dignity and respect in your worth and the work that you do for this country. So I'm hoping that you're going to get there soon.
Yeah, we do too. But, just recently, like President Fain announced, there was some record movement with Stellantis today. Therefore, there wasn't a Stellantis facility called out. I hope that continues, and I hope that the other two of the big three sit down and get serious. Our proposals were presented weeks prior to the beginning of negotiations, and then not till the final hours do they want to sit down and have a conversation about those issues that are pressing for our members. And that's what it's all about. It's about our members.
Yeah, that's very encouraging to hear that about Stellantis. John, so you are the political coordinator for Region 4 of the UAW, and tell us about all the jurisdiction that you cover there.
So in Region 4 covers 12 states. I am the political coordinator under the direction of Director Brandon Campbell and Assistant Director Lucas Despain for Illinois. I only cover Illinois. Now, my counterparts might say, he only has one state. Illinois is a big state.
It certainly is.
It is.
And how, working with elected officials here, which is part of your role, what has been the response you've been getting from them? Are they standing with you? Or do they understand what's at stake here?
We've seen a lot of positive response. We need to see more. As the strike continues, it shouldn't be just about a photo opportunity. We should have our elected officials in our state houses speaking out, our community leaders speaking out, and our affiliates speaking out about the injustices done to the UAW members over the years and the importance of of bargaining a fair and good contract for them. So we want to see more, and we want it to continue, right? They can do more, and they need to do more. But we do appreciate those that have shown up so far.
Yeah.
And tell us one more time, you have how many members on strike nationwide, and again, how many on strike here in Illinois?
So nationwide right now we have 25,000 members. Illinois, we have almost 4,000 members at the Ford facility and another couple hundred at the two supplier facilities, one GM supplier facility in Bolingbrook and a Stellantis supplier facility in Naperville.
Okay, got it. And we got to take a break shortly here, but before we let you go, what can our listeners do to help? What can people sitting at home do who want to get involved, who want to stand in solidarity and help our brothers and sisters who are out right now on strike?
Well, they can visit the picket line, obviously. They can stand up and ask their community leaders to stand up and make statements and provide the necessary resources that our members may need as the strike continues. Because it isn't easy to survive on strike pay, but they're willing to do that to win a fair and just contract.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Well, John, thank you so much for your time. We know there's so much happening with you, and you've got a very hectic schedule. So we can let you go, but thanks again. And, we stand in solidarity with you, and give them hell.
I appreciate what you guys do, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.
All right, we will be right back with the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. Welcome back to the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN. I'm Phil Davidson here with Izzy Dobble, and we had some really great conversation there with John, with Brian. Learned a lot about railroad labor.
Oh yeah,
the strike. Very inspiring words from John about what's going on, and the solidarity that's being shown across the country is outstanding. We're
rolling from hot labor summer to hot labor fall. It's not stopping.
No, the train keeps rolling. That's right. Hot labor summer, so long. Here we go. Hot labor fall. Let's talk about before we wrap up the show here. Let's talk about some issues that we're seeing that you could probably talk about. One of which was the big news in Illinois this week was about Speaker Welch proposing legislation that would allow his staff to organize. Obviously in the state of Illinois we have a lot of public employees who are members of unions, but legislative staff. And there's a lot of them in Illinois because we're such a big state with a big government. They have been exempted from that, and they've always served. Out. It's a tough job. It's a lot of hours, and I'm not sure who, but someone from his staff started leading an effort to start organizing them. And when those things happen, there's a lot of push and pull. There's a lot of figuring out how this is going to work. But the speaker, he came through this week and said, he's going to commit to introducing legislation, and that's about where my knowledge ends on this topic. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Izzy, and tell us a little more about what's going on with that.
Yeah, well, Speaker Welch has been a great ally to labor. It makes me personally very excited. I used to work in a district office, and that work is hard. It's really evenings, hard. It's weekends, it's back to back to back. You could be getting a call from a constituent, and then you're getting a call about policy, and then you're getting a call about a parade you got to be at. Like it is go kind of work, and because those are political appointee jobs, there was they're carved out, but. They're still workers. Like they still deserve to have, the dignity with their pay and their benefits, and to make sure that their life can be, thriving just as much as whoever they're working for. So it makes me very excited to see him taking the charge and listening to the staff and working alongside them, because it is very specific in this instance that you have to introduce a piece of legislation for it to happen, right?
Right.
Rather than we're gonna file, we're gonna do an election. It's they have to even be allowed to do it.
Right. And we would be, I think, the first state in the nation?
First, California and Washington, I think, have gotten that movement going too. But, hey, we're still there. That's right all that matters, is that our workers are going to get what they need.
Do they actually have a contract, though?
I don't know if they have a formal contract, but this wouldn't be a contract for us either, right? It would just allow them to begin the process.
Begin the process, right. Yeah. I think you're right about that. I don't think any state has actually gone through and has a contract, correct? I thought I read that recently.
Yeah.
So we would be, on the vanguard there, and Yeah, I myself in a previous life worked in a district office, and it's grueling. And the idea is you do that grunt work and you climb the ladder and look for other opportunities down the road. But still, everyone needs.
And you're a public servant. It's beautiful to serve your community, but you also got to pay your student loans,
pay the bills. Exactly.
You got to pay for your car, and
especially
shouldn't be one or the other.
Because these are jobs that generally go to kids coming out of college, out of grad school, who are drowning in debt, and got to pay them a good and decent wage so they can and give them the protections. Yeah, because working 7 days a week, 12-hour days, it's like, hey, something's got to give here.
And if you're trying to fight attrition too, right? Like the best workers are there for longer. They learn the process. They're able to move through faster. Like, what is it? The first 6 months to a year of your job, you're just figuring out how to open your email,
right?
And get acclimated.
I'm still learning. I have no idea what I'm doing. Right? Yeah.
What is an email? But if you get burned out, then they just keep going through, and you lose a lot of professionalism in there.
Very true. We also mentioned during the break, yesterday there was a rally symposium about the wage gap for Latina workers, correct? Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, Latina women get paid 51 cents to the dollar that a white man would make.
51 cents?
51. So like women's payday is like in March. And then like black women's payday is in July, and Latina women's payday is literally in December.
Okay.
And it's gotten later every year. And this is something that we've seen, it can't get closed with education. It's not like, oh, well, if you get that master's degree, that's what happens. Nope, it's still not closed.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of different factors, right? But I mean, to no surprise, the number one way to close the pay gap is to join a union, because you get exactly what is on the contract, and union women make up to 98 or 99% of what the highest earners are, or to have the same as the contract. The little gap there is just making sure that women have the opportunity to like the highest paid job.
Yes.
To getting them up there for especially for in the trades and everything, but. Yeah, I mean, I lived this life. Like I was very honored to be on the panel and really talk about how a union helped me get to where I am. But I was, in a role that I was getting paid $15,000-$20,000 less than what other people were getting paid in the same job.
Really?
Same grueling hours, same situation. I asked for what I needed 3 times, got no's 3 times, and I had to leave. And it's tough being an immigrant because you get a lot of doubt in yourself, like, well, what if I leave, what if I don't ever get this again? And maybe I should just be grateful to be here.
Yeah, I should just swallow my pride and just take
totally.
it, right?
Yeah, and that's what my parents are telling me. Like, no, you just put your head down and power through. And it's putting my head down and powering through is going to stop me from being able to, get to my next step and really take care of myself. So, since I had a different role, and then now I'm with the CFL, and I'm a dues-paying union member of SEIU HCII. So shout out to my local.
Good for you.
Life has only gotten better.
Success
so I can
story.
only talk about how much everyone needs to join.
That's awesome. No, that's so great to hear. And you brought up one of arguably the most beautiful things. I'll use the word beautiful about unions is there is no gender gap. There is no age gap. You all make the same.
Right. We bargain for the contract together. We get it done together. We're siblings. Let's go.
There's a set wage, no matter your race, creed, color. Everyone gets paid the same, and that is, that's just great. That we're all in the same boat together.
Yeah.
And there's no interference about any pre-existing prejudices or whatever is what's driving the wage gap in other areas of our economy. So that's awesome. Other good news we could wrap up on here is the screenwriters finally got their deal. We've been talking about this, seemingly every week for the last few months. And there's still work to go on behalf of the screen actors, but the writers got it. And from what I read, like, they made out pretty well. I think if you were to do a score, our production crew is shaking their heads, but they're creatives. I think considering how much Hollywood could have still prolonged this.
Right. They were on strike for over 120 days, right?
Like second longest ever, and the fact that they're going to get residuals on streaming shows. Again, not everyone, but the ones that are top performing, I understand there's protections against AI.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Good.
The protections. Yeah. We saw so much. There's always so much solidarity, right, in the labor movement, because we're gonna get through it together. But especially for the AI component, that was like the first time that's been introduced into a contract in like it might be them first, but it's going to keep being a conversation that goes into all of these negotiations.
Yeah, basically saying that you can't use AI in your scripts, basically.
Right,
Like they have to be written by humans, which is, that's how you protect your livelihood.
Right, right. And for the screen actors, it also was like, asking to use your likeness.
Your likeness, right. Yeah, we talked about that on the show last week.
They don't even need you anymore. That's a whole nother thing.
For sure. There's some screenwriters who are members of CFL, right?
Yeah, SAG-AFTRA is a member.
Okay. Have you been in conversation with anyone since?
Yeah.
Charles, is there a lot of elation since?
I mean,
I was talking about the screenwriters, not the actors. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they're in the process.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a one-on-one update since, but we had over 3 actions over the summer. All had huge turnouts. Working a lot with like the executive director and the president. But we had the Teamsters out, CTU out. We had
Carpenters
out.
Yeah.
We had everybody. Because at the end of the day, like this is you today, this is me tomorrow, this is my family, and we're gonna really stick it to them.
Yeah.
So
it's about staying together.
I was really happy to see all of that movement.
Awesome. Well, hey, I think that's all the time we have.
Do you want to talk about races at all, like upcoming political races?
Yeah, well, sorry, we covered.
You're good.
We got like a minute to go here. Tell us about what you are the political director. So we're in political season here. What races are you keeping an eye on?
Aren't we always in political season?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So
it never ends.
Right. So this is the big 2024 presidential cycle, and the primary coming up. So some of the big races that are coming up in Cook County is Cook County State's Attorney, Clerk of the Circuit Court. 2 Metropolitan Water Reclamation District seats that are up, a Board of Review seat, and of course, our judges, Cook County Circuit Court judges, and the sub-circuit judges. So
how do you score judicial candidates? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so this is, we are the labor movement. Mm-hmm. So we have a questionnaire that goes out. It's all public. It's all on our website. Right now, there's an interest form up for any interested candidates. They can go in, and the minute that all of our things are posted or questionnaires are accessible, they'll get an email. But so that'll be a questionnaire that really, evaluates them of like their judicial experience, or of, if you're ready for a Metropolitan Water Reclamation District or Cook County commissioner for the first district, right? Yep. Mayor Johnson's old seat.
Yes.
And now it's Commissioner Stamps. But like those are specific questions for each of them, if they've ever been part of a CBA themselves, if they, have been an advocate for labor in the past, how to speak to it. And then we bring folks in to be able to have an interview with us and assess that questionnaire. So I don't have a vote, but all the unions at the table have a vote and the ability to really have that conversation, and then it goes into further processes. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's just important that labor is all on the same page about where we're going to be on a seat. But there are times that unions might pick other people after the fact, but it's a big process to be able to assess what the priorities of that candidate's going to be, and if they're going to be a true ally of the labor movement. Yeah, no, there's a lot of people involved in those decisions, and in some ways it's herding cattle, trying to get everyone on the same board. But and I always say in Chicago too, it's surprising, we don't have dog catcher as an option, because we have so many levels of government. Not yet. It's hard to catch. Don't give us any ideas here. All right, well, we got to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Izzy, for coming on the show. Thank again to Brian and to John. Great conversation, and thank you to our loyal listeners. We will see you next week on the Workers' Mic on 720 WGN.